Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation. My name is Pedro Marques, and together with Professor Marcelo Schots and my colleagues Murilo Silva and Camila Gusmão, I'm here to present our work entitled Requirements Engineering Out of the Classroom, Anticipating Challenges Experienced in Practice. Software engineering education is a very important concern in the formation of computer scientists. One of the most crucial topics, yet sometimes overlooked, is requirements engineering. Teaching RE is challenging for a multitude of reasons. One of them involves its multidisciplinary nature. It requires soft skills computer science students are not often exposed to or challenged with throughout their course degree. Requirements engineers are at the forefront of the software development process. One of their main assignments is gathering and analyzing requirements from information sources, including the clients, standards, documents, similar software, and so on. Another key assignment involves specifying the identified requirements by classifying and organizing them into a requirement specification document. Also, a requirements engineer is responsible for validating the specified requirements with stakeholders to ensure that they actually describe the idealized system. The outcome of the requirements engineer's works sets the path for the next steps. This also means that errors in any point of this process are very costly, as they affect all the subsequent steps and can jeopardize the entire software development process. For this reason, the training of requirements engineers should involve one or more experienced ones, who will show them how to manage unforeseen situations on the fly and develop skills to enable this. Abilities such as how to better utilize the client's time while extracting and registering as much information as possible are much better learned and fine-tuned through practice than by solely reading and assimilating the theory. Exposing students to real problems in RE can produce a wide array of scenarios with practical challenges that will truly measure their ability as prospective requirements engineers. Unfortunately, during the university classes, sometimes students are only introduced to the basic theoretical RE concepts. This can be somewhat limiting for their preparation and training. Classes should not be a mere exposition of contents. Instead, they should encompass dynamic activities preparing the students' next steps as computer scientists, be it as researchers or practitioners. If students are put in the center of the learning process, knowledge would be reinforced through practice, within a domain that the students feel comfortable enough to express themselves freely, while still facing the difficulties and challenges that could eventually surface during their professional lives. So why not experience this using the university itself as a sort of laboratory? Being an organization, it is also full of demands and issues that must be properly listed and documented for further management. Besides, contrarily to the industrial setting, it presents some controlled conditions that provide the students with the required time flexibility so that their course degree does not get affected. Within the Rio de Janeiro State University is the Institute of Mathematics and Statistics. It is divided into 6 departments, including the Informatics and Computer Science department, and contains approximately 1,300 students and 120 professionals, including faculty members and administrative technicians. The Institute has a website, whose most recent version was created in 2014. Throughout the years, many Institute members have voiced their opinions on what could be done to improve it. Some professors decided to join forces and try to propose a new, improved website version. Then, Professor Marcelo, who was in charge of the RE course at the time, decided to take this opportunity to train students in RE practice in the context of this project. After deciding to take on the project, some of us students got to know about the initiative and spread the word to our closest friends. Excited with the idea, we expressed interest in taking part in it. It is worth mentioning that all of us had already taken the software engineering course, so we were already introduced to some RE concepts. Since this was a much more ambitious idea than just a regular RE class, and had the unique aspect of involving a real project, having a small group of students was very useful since it was easier to manage and assign specific tasks that best fit their profiles. Now, Professor Marcelo will share some details about the initiative.
Hi there, thank you, Pedro. Indeed, the most exciting part of this project was hitting two targets with one shot, so I wondered this is a win win scenario. We should really accept the challenge. Regarding the student assessment, the main basis for the final grade was the amount and overall quality of the completed tasks and the time taken to finish them. Each week we had a 3-hour class, and soon after, students were given tasks that ranged from creating a feature model of the website to developing questions for interviews and questionnaires. The project was geared towards the university staff and students, including prospective ones, and it was to be executed at the university. The students involved in this project could easily relate with it, as they had a certain level of familiarity with the target domain. Yet, there were interesting requirements engineering challenges in this context. The academic system as a whole has particularities students should tackle because they were not fully aware of. Indeed, they get to know how hard the professor's life can be. The students should also deal with stakeholders that still had an incomplete idea of what the end product would look like. And there was also the need to manage some conflicting requirements. The method used in the project consisted of several stages that were carried out during the course duration. This activity diagram represents the method used. This was created as one of the previously mentioned tasks by one of the course students. During the activity planning stage, students should begin their practical activities immediately after each theoretical lesson in order to elucidate the knowledge acquired in class. As such, the participants in the class were organized as a team, with each of them having their role and objectives to be fulfilled. Before each activity, I shared some considerations from my practical experience as a requirements engineer, which is not huge, and as a member of consultancy teams supporting and assessing the implementation of requirement management processes. I'll give the floor to Murilo.
Hello, okay, sure. During the introduction to course content stage, we had a brief introduction REAR, followed by a quick recap of requirement classification. We then learned some tips on how to conduct REAR properly and received an in-depth explanation of various requirements acquisition techniques. During the domain analysis stage, we visited a number of websites from different academic institutions. The goal was to make more familiar with the domain while observing commonalities and variabilities. The information collected could also help us identify new features and improvements to institute's website. Based on the findings from the previous step, each of us created a separate feature model, organized into one, using the folder Future-Oriented Domain Analysis Diagram Notation. So Camila, what's next?
Hi, Camila here. So, the client requirement acquisition activities were executed as follows. First, we conducted an initial interview with some stakeholders to get an overview of what they expected from the website. Then, we carried our brainstorming sessions to better understand the stakeholders' ideas and to try to reach a consensus in case their expectations diverged from each other and from the project scope. We also created a questionnaire whose questions were designed based on some learned guidelines to further identify problems and potential improvements for the website. Finally, we documented the relevant information obtained from the previous activities into a requirements specification document. Among other contents, it contained the project scope, the description and details of the requirements acquisition techniques used, as mentioned previously, the dictionary of terms and abbreviations, which with their meaning and references, the system actors and their access levels to different parts of the website, the functional, non-functional, and domain requirements grouped by related topics, and the list of reference to publication and resources mentioned in the document. A use case diagram helped us map the system access levels of each of the actors. It also helped us understand the particularities related to the content administrator. We also took some time to realize that we did not need to differ between professors and technician and administrative staff, as they have similar permission in the context of the website.
We started to develop a prototype based on the requirements obtained. Some special attention was given to the homepage and department pages since the stakeholders believed they were the most important ones on the whole website. To help produce the prototype, we proposed the website project to be the final project of the Development on Ruby on Rails course, in which we all enrolled in the same semester. Due to a non-functional requirement, the website should be responsive, which makes sense as most of the faculty and many students would primarily use mobile devices to access it. Here's a version of our prototype with fictional data. More specifically, we can see the home page, the department page, and a picture showing the prototype being displayed in 3 devices of different sizes, thanks to its responsive layout. The developed functional prototype was first presented to the professor of the Development on Ruby on Rails course, who verified if all of the required aspects were present. He used it as the final grade of this course. After that, we presented it to one of the main stakeholders, and later to the board of directors, who appreciated our work and suggested punctual improvements for the finished product.
We will now present a few challenges and lessons learned during the course. First challenge we faced as students was getting to know RIA and its intricacies. The software engineer course only covers the main aspects, mostly because it involves several other topics, and it is hard to grasp them all at fine-grained level during the course time frame.
The initial interview and the brainstorming sessions were also quite challenging, not only during the preparation of the questions, but also because it was hard to find a common schedule for all participants. The prepared questions should be impartial so that they did not sound like suggestions. We had a tough time trying to sync the note-taking in the established orders of the questions, also because participants ended up anticipating answers to questions we would ask later.
Okay, that was really crazy. And lack of skills in the Ruby on Rails framework provided an extra challenge that we had to overcome. Thank you, Internet, we owe you one.
But unfortunately, the course duration is not enough to execute all project extensions. Even so, all parties agreed that experience was very fruitful.
As with any academic work, we are aware of some limitations. One of them is the difficulty of scaling this work to a large number of students. For instance, schedules would be even more restricted and harder to manage.
Yes, about that. I wonder how professors would manage a larger class.
Right? Another limitation is that we decided to use the same project in 2 courses. We ended up performing requirement engineering in parallel with some implementation, as our prototype was pretty functional.
Maybe this is a good time to talk about future works. It would be interesting to assess different teaching methods and different settings to see how they would fit in varying combinations.
Applying this method for re-engineering websites from other institutes or universities would be quite interesting as well. Stakeholders would have different perspectives of what is more important to them.
Let's leave this to next students, okay? And finally, it would be nice to see other courses topic towards a more practical trade. Something tells me the professor would enjoy the idea.
Who knows?
This project will not be possible without the involvement and commitment of Professor Américo Cunha, the support of Professor Geraldo Magela, and the partnerships of Professor Leandro Marzullo. We also thank the PEXT, the Rio de Janeiro State University Extension Department, for bridging the gap between university and society. Some stages would not reflect the industry reality without the professionalism of the professors who gently agreed to contribute in this process. Finally, this would never become a reality without the collaboration of some very dedicated colleagues. We sincerely thank each of them for joining us in this endeavor. We extend our gratitudes to all of the students and staff at the Institute of Mathematics and Statistics. So that's it. Thank you very much for your interest in this presentation. If you have any questions, we'll be pleased to answer them. See you. Bye.